pledge allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Andrew Abanowitz. Tim Neville.
Here.
Mary Ann Turner, here. Kelly Davis.
Here.
Charlie Basterberti. Rick Stroni.
Here.
Robert Kwasnicki.
Fire evacuation notice. In case of fire, proceed to the back of the chamber and out the double doors to the outside, or to the doors on my left of the chamber, turn left through the double doors and down the stairs to the parking lot. The town attorney's report, we were given one just before the meeting, and I think we can take a look at that as we go along. If we have questions, we can come back to.
Certainly, that's your prerogative. We got it today, so I just figured I'd rather give you today than in your next packet in 2 months.
No problem. Old business, I don't believe we have any right now, correct? Okay. The new business and the legal ad for the first ZBA notice.
ZBA 2023-06-13, 504 Hazard Avenue. Appeal of zoning enforcement officer cease and desist. Order of Section 12.20, Enforcement and Administration, Michael McManus, applicant 504 Hazard LLC, owner map 92, lot 63, I-1 zone.
You have to take attendance for this hearing.
I don't think so. What are you talking about?
Okay, I'd like to invite the applicant.
Turn your thing on.
Okay, I'd like to invite the applicant and his attorney, apparently. Come on up.
Which one of us is the attorney, which is the applicant?
I'm going with the tie.
I don't know if you want me to give a quick summary or not, but that's
Yeah, let me just have them introduce themselves first, and just make sure that red light is on for that microphone, please, and please speak into the mic and give me your name and your address, please.
My name is Mike McManus.
Hold on just 1 second, please, okay? I need to, Chairman Abranowitz cannot be here tonight, and I'm going to seat Rich Stroni to be the voting member in his place. And I think Mr. Stroni has something he'd like to say at this point.
Yeah, just full disclosure, I just want to highlight that I know Attorney Kosberg from years ago when I ran a business. I've been out of that business for a few years, haven't interacted with him regarding this matter at all. So just want to put that on the record, and good to see you again, Attorney Kosberg.
Okay, thank you very much. At this point, please introduce yourselves and give us your address, and then I'm going to turn it over to Lori just to give us some background here to bring us up to speed. Thank you.
Yep, my name is Mike McManus, applicant 504 Hazard Avenue.
My name is Alan Kosberg. I am an attorney, 61 Middlebrook Road, West Hartford, Connecticut.
Okay, Mrs. Whitten?
I just thought I'd just give a really brief rundown as to where this started and where we are today. On September 10th in 2020, the applicant applied for an outdoor patio for a special use permit. On 5/10/21, there was an inspection which showed the patio had been constructed larger and into the grass without any permit. June 1st, 2021, still no permit, yet added lighting and fabric shades. On June 14th, 21, the site plan modification was submitted and heard by the Planning and Zoning Commission, and that was to get the patio approved as it was built, not as it was originally approved, but as it was built. Meanwhile, during all this time, many interior changes were made without a building permit. On July 8th, 2021, the applicant was given the conditions of submit signed and sealed plans to include patio and interior modifications, and a letter of property owner assuming all liability. So that was, and then 10 months later, I'm sorry, that was 10 months later, and now 2 years later, from 7/8/21, we're now at 7/24/23. Both conditions have not been met. No building permit has been issued for any of the modifications in or out, and interior changes has increased the occupancy above 79, which was established in 2014 with their initial permit. So at this point, that's where we stand right now. There is no building permit issued for any of the interior or exterior improvements.
And we're here tonight to hear the appeal of the CEO's cease and desist order.
Right, so the cease and desist order was issued, and the applicant has appealed it and is requesting, I believe, a 60-day extension.
Isn't this is the second cease and desist, and we're focusing on the second one? And the one that also where the planning and zoning told them they needed to have a letter from the owner of the property, that's the one we're focused on?
Right, yeah, so they were kind of combined with the cease and desist, the initial outdoor patio permit and the modification.
Okay. So we'll turn it over to the appellant and ask you to bring us up to speed from your perspective.
So, as Lori had mentioned, as Ms. Witten had mentioned, we came here tonight seeking a continuance till the next hearing of the ZBA. That would give us a chance to have our architect and engineer complete plans and hopefully determine and narrow the scope of our appeal. Our appeal was more broad. We do have some questions which we want to resolve. But I think with the plans that our architect and engineer are preparing, those issues will be narrowed. I do have, as Ms. Witten suggested when we spoke earlier today, I do have a letter from our architect confirming that they've been engaged, confirming, in fact, that they have submitted draft plans to the town, suggesting that there was no compliance issues, that it was simply getting additional information as to the cost of the repairs so the proper fees could be paid. But in terms of the actual compliance, there does not seem to be an issue. In terms of the site plan, I don't understand there to be an issue as well. I have spoken personally to the engineer, and the engineer confirms that there's no issue with the parking lot going down the hill or anything like that. In terms of where it was built 3 or 4 feet into a grassy area. It didn't change the parking at all. I do have, unfortunately, I wasn't able to get it in writing per se prior to tonight's hearing, but when I went home after coming here earlier in the afternoon, I do have an email, which if you technologically tell me how to share it with you, I'm happy to do it, in which the engineer confirms that he has been hired. He confirms that he doesn't understand there to be any issues with the hill, which he'll have completed site plan in 3 to 4 weeks. And we should be in good stead for the next hearing to resolve and identify what issues, if any, remain. So at this point, we're asking for a continuance.
The commissioners have any questions for the appellant?
I make a motion to allow the continuance to our September meeting, but I do have a question before you do that. You don't have any intention of having an August meeting, do you? You don't have anything in the docket that you know of?
I don't. I mean, as far as staffing, I mean, we don't have anything in the pipeline that we know,
Okay,
so.
so I make a
this can-
motion to
this can-
continue it to our September meeting.
Okay, we have to have a discussion at this point, and I have some questions myself about it. I don't know whether you guys have it or not. One of the concerns I had in reading this was that we've been going for 2 years with this thing here,
3.
give or take, right? And we've had a lot of things that have gone on, and you're coming here, and I totally believe you that you want to get this stuff done, but we've had 2 years, and I'm just sitting here, why hasn't it gotten done? You've given a statement from these folks that there's no issues. The investigation that's happened so far has been that there's a lot of issues. I think there's a lot of documentation that there's, in their mind, the CEO's mind, and so on, there's some issues. So I'm just wondering, what happened in this time that we didn't get these things taken care of? It's 2 years is a long time. Go ahead.
I'm prepared to answer that question, and you fill in where I missed something. So my understanding is that there was some first of all, the first issue I want to say is that the issue appears in and again, I've only dug into this in the past little bit of time. I haven't been involved since 2020 or 21. So I'm, relatively speaking, new to this. But my sense of the issue is it's not a substantive issue, it's a procedural issue, which is you didn't get the building permit, you didn't submit a site plan, but if you had submitted the site plan as it exists now, it would be approved. And the building, in terms of the improvements that were done, are in compliance with all of your local regulations. So in my mind, it sort of speaks to a process rather than a substance issue. But having said that, let me explain a little bit about the process. It's my understanding, and Mike will correct me if I'm misstating anything, is that when Mike became aware of the fact that the patio was built 3 or 4 feet into a grassy area, extending it a little bit further than had been originally planned, he did come here and get approval for a revised plan which allowed him to build that as it was built. He then had an architect, he had hired an architect who did have some back and forth with the building department back in June and July of 2021. I think Mike understood, frankly, that the architect had handled it or was handling it. And frankly, Mike moved on to a bigger purchase or another purchase of another location, which I was involved in South Windsor. And Mike's focus had not been on following through with the architect to make sure that the architect had done what the architect had been hired to do and submit a site plan. And it, in all honesty, I think it fell through the cracks. But having said that, Mike is trying to his best to comply to the full extent that is required. There are some issues which I think we'll need to clarify, but I think come the hearing, whenever that next hearing is, whether it's in August or September, I think we will be able to narrow the issues to 1 or 2 issues, and I think we will be able to provide to you something that I envision will be entirely satisfactory to take care of all your interests, if not in the letter of the law, in the true spirit of the law.
One of the things that, I hear what you're saying, okay, but I have a concern about a lot of the documentation that's going on. You've read the same documentation that I have in terms of meeting with the CEO and meeting with the building people and all that stuff. And my recollection, reading all this stuff several times, is that they had a significantly different opinion about it being minor or just, process. Is there a little process? I would say yes, but it's not, and there's been a lot of commitments made over the 2 years. And please, Lori, correct me if I'm wrong, to get this stuff done, get it done in a timely manner. And I know one of the quotes that stood out to me, and I don't mean to offend, but in a meeting on 6/1/21, somebody talked about when they found out that it was not meeting the requirements, that they responded by saying, we built it the way we wanted to. And later on, they stated it was always their intention to build it the way it was built. It doesn't sound like cooperating.
That was taken quite out of context as the initial drawing that was handed to the zoning, just as this is what we'd like to do, was a Sharpie marker over a Google Earth image saying this is where we'd like to put a patio. And when it was found that I built it bigger than what I put as a Sharpie marker, my response was, I built it the way we wanted to. I just didn't show it on a Sharpie the way. We were putting this patio through during COVID times where we must get a patio tomorrow or we're not going to be here tomorrow. So the patio was built in a very short amount of time. And as Alan has said, I just did not follow through with the paperwork the way we should have.
Right.
But I do have a question. You went in front of P&Z just a few weeks ago.
No.
What? The last time they were in, okay, the minutes, maybe I'm getting them all mixed up, but they specifically said, okay, bring us the new drawings. You did it, and then they asked you to do 2 things. I think one was to get a letter from the owner of the property, and there was a second.
Sealed plans, I think.
Yeah, sealed
The
plans,
engineer.
and what I'm curious about is why there has never been a certificate of compliance, but we can come back later. So,
That's when we engaged with the architect that had started the conversation with the building department.
was that, Mike, just tell me when. Are we talking about in '23?
No, we're talking about right after the zoning meeting, our initial building application was put in with a different architect. That architect did not follow through with what they had promised, and we're not working with that firm anymore.
Mr. Chairman, I would just like us to move on the question then.
Then we'll move on the question.
You want a roll call vote?
Please, roll call.
We're voting on the motion to table.
One question, can we amend the motion to say if it meets the requirements of the professionals, the architects, that if we have a meeting in August, we can have them on our agenda in August? The next
That's
available.
why I asked, and she's pretty much made it clear we're not having it.
Definitely not, okay.
That doesn't mean you can't. I'm
Oh,
just
no,
saying
no, that's
that
fine.
I don't think there's
I didn't know if anything
in-
would come
in
up.
the
I'll
queue at
withdraw
this
my
point.
amended.
Okay, so the motion is to table it till our September meeting. I don't have the date in front of me, but whatever that's 20-something date is.
It's the 25th, and that would give them 2 extra days for their 65-day extension. So
Not
they're
cold,
only
yes.
allowed to have 65 days in
You
extension.
understand the problem. You will not be able to go further after. So if you're not ready, if we would, I'm not speaking for these guys, but we're more than happy to come in August if you can get your ducks in a row so we can get this done. If not, and we hold you to September, you have no more wiggle room if something doesn't happen right. What would you prefer before we vote?
I would imagine September, I don't.
Okay,
The
okay.
let me just, the one thing that concerns me in that is the requirement that we get a letter from the owner assuming liability. One that wasn't part of the original approval from this panel. That was not a requirement from this panel.
Not this panel.
It's planning and zoning.
Zoning, I'm sorry, that was not a requirement of theirs. And 2, I think that's a contractual relationship between a landlord and tenant. And I'm not entirely sure, I imagine, I'm guessing, but I don't want to put words in your mouth. I'm guessing the concern is the town of Enfield somehow liable? And I don't know that they are legally, but what I think we would propose to address that one issue, if it's still an issue, is, and we'll try, we'll ask the owner for the letter. I'm not sure whether or not he'll give it to us or not. We do, the owner of that property has changed hands from when this process began. We do have a copy of a lease which shows that the lease included the patio, implicitly understanding that the landlord approved that there be a patio. We also can provide a certificate of insurance showing that Mike has full, Powder Hollow Brewery has full insurance covering any liability that
I'm not
happens.
trying to, right now, the only thing we're talking about is giving you till September. If you want to continue this, I'll remove my motion and we can vote on it tonight.
No,
But you
I-
don't have your own materials, so
Yeah.
what do you want?
That's,
All I can tell you is what we have in front of us, and I'm not speaking for the chairman, but that was one of the requests from planning and zoning, so
Right.
keep it under advisement. But right now, we're putting on the table to give you the postponement until September 25th, right, Kelly?
that would be fine.
If we continue it now, we can deal with it now. But if we leave it this way, that's that's part of our package.
Okay.
We can't take it away until we have the hearing.
Okay.
If we have that hearing.
Okay.
And I think so, and
So
you
we'll have that discussion in September.
I think if I were you, I'd have it taken care of before September. Because if you walk in here and you don't have it, and that's my understanding is still a requirement. We haven't,
Well-
nobody's taken it away. So we got to get clarification or get it taken care of.
Okay?
Okay? But keep in mind also that we have 65 days. You only have 2 days leeway here. That's how long we can hold out, if we table it. Pardon me? Lori. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't say, Lori, go
But,
ahead.
so, just for clarification, statutorily, you may request up to 65 days of an extension, and you are requesting that of the board. You may not extend anything beyond that. There's only going to be 2 days left if you get to the September 25th. The other thing is, you're talking about a condition of approval from a different board, so, and that's not part of the that was not part of the appeal. So you would have
That
to,
was part of the appeal.
it was,
It's listed as part of, it's listed as one of the reasons of our appeal.
So you want, no, I don't believe you have the right to change the conditions of approval from the Planning and Zoning Commission, or the Zoning Board of Appeals. So that's what I'm saying.
Right.
Okay.
So we want to be careful. So here's the bottom line. And I'm not speaking for you, but we could have a meeting in August. We'd be happy to come in, and instead of waiting for September, because if we come in September and things aren't perfect, you're done. So, before we vote, would you like us to amend our motion to an August meeting? Or would you rather have us, and I'm actually going to ask through the chairman to Lori, what if we put it to September, but they get their ducks in a row and they call you, and then you call us, and then we put a special meeting on the books in that window? Can we do that?
Well, one scenario that would be probably the best scenario would be that they would comply with all of the conditions that they have before the continuation finishes, and then they could drop the appeal.
Right,
That would be optimal.
but we're still asking the same question. If we push it, if we take our motion, we vote to September, but they could be done, can they come in and tell you, hey, we got it all, let's say they have to still come in front of us, forget that they got it all perfect.
Right.
Can we then say, okay, the whole special meeting in, can we do that?
Yeah.
So we'll stick with September and leave it in their game.
in your hands.
You have options. You heard us, right? You heard us, okay. Mr. Chairman, I think Mr. Kwasnicki.
Just a quick question, Lori, just for clarification. There are some things in the packet that are not under our jurisdiction here, but with planning and zoning, is that correct?
Yes, sir, that is correct.
And, sir, you're aware, you can contact the staff, but you're aware of all the things that, you need to get this resolved? There are no, okay, all right.
Are we
Thank you.
ready to vote now?
Anybody else? Roll call, please.
Tim Neville,
Yes.
Mary Ann Turner, yes. Kelly Davis?
Yes.
Charlie Masterbirdy? Yes. Rick Stroney,
Yes.
you're tabled.
Take care, good luck.
Hang on to your paperwork, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, let me know when you're ready.
Tim, so I'm alternate tonight, right?
Correct. Okay.
Ready?
Ready to go.
ZBA 2023-0620, 78 Brainerd Road, appeal of zoning enforcement officer cease and desist of section 4.20, use requirements 4.40.5, home occupation, home professional offices. Kevin Ferguson, applicant owner, map 36, lot 293, R33 zone.
Kevin Ferguson. Please come up and give your name and address, please. Mrs. Witten, do you want to give an update on this as well?
I will, to the best of my knowledge.
Just a second. Name and address, please.
Kevin Ferguson, 78 Brainerd Road.
Thank you very much. Ms. Witten?
From reading through the file, it appears that the home has been used for rentals. I couldn't quite figure out whether it was a two-family with an in-law apartment or whether the in-law was part of the two-family. So there's at least 2 dwelling units in there, which was never approved. There's also a home occupation being run for an oil business. The owner does not live there, so therefore he can't have an in-law apartment and he can't have a home occupation permit because they don't even, he apparently does not live there.
I
So
do
he
live
would
there.
need a special, just a minute, he'd need a special use permit for an in-law. But the building permit issued for additional living space was issued, the building permit was issued only for additional living space, not an in-law apartment. So there was a building permit, I believe, in 1970. The owner must live on the premises for a home occupation. Oil trucks cannot frequent the residential property. we understand that there's an office there, but that trucks can't be coming in and out or parking overnight or anything of that nature. This is an aquifer protection area, so they're not registered to be there, not to mention it's a residential area. And the oil business is not even registered, so.
Just to clarify just from what you said, okay? We have three different things. We have a house with an in-law apartment that was, the addition of the in-law apartment was added as additional living space, not as an in-law apartment. And
Correct.
it had a permit for that back in 1970, okay? Secondly, there's been an oil business that's operating out of their office is there, okay? And that's been operating out of there, I think, for like 14 years, maybe? Am I-
More than that.
Oh,
I had a contracting business since 1980, and I disbanded that and started the oil company.
Okay. And the other issue is whether it can be a home occupation. That's one of the issues that's being brought up tonight. And the question is, well, there's a couple of issues there. One, from the investigation that ZEO did, that's not your place of residence. You live in Weathersfield.
No, I live there now.
Were you?
Sold the house in Weathersfield
Okay. When did you move to this address?
about 2 months ago.
Okay. So during the time this has been going on, you were not living there, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And the other thing is operating an oil company there or having, hold just a second, having trucks basically stop there for whatever reason and drop, when I understand they were dropping off notices or receipts or whatever to you at the house. And then, and there was also other equipment, I believe, parked in the.
I
garage.
had a cargo trailer, like a utility trailer in the backyard. It's not there no more. Hasn't been there for over a year.
Okay. Okay. Now that I got that straightened out,
Okay.
tell me
So-
what's
so
going on and what you're
anyways,
asking for.
This was my parents' house. They bought it brand new. My father was on the zoning board of appeals and the zoning. He had this built. Probably back in 1970, they didn't have a checkbox for an in-law apartment on a building permit. On the building permit, it says there's a full furnace, a full basement, bathroom, a kitchen, a living room, bathroom, bedroom. I get, the tax bill says in-law apartment on it. I did not change it into a duplex. It's still got one meter on it, one water meter. It's originally the way my parents, after my parents died, I took the house over. That's for the house. I've done nothing to turn it into a duplex.
Where are you living in the house then? Because I thought you were renting it. I thought you had renters in there.
I did. The renter moved out. I had someone in there that was homeless for a while, and that's the person that kind of destroyed it because I was waiting to move in there, and I kind of kicked him out, and that's who started all this craziness. They destroyed it.
Okay. Any questions from the commissioners?
Can you describe the house? I'm still confused because I know there's an in-law apartment. By any chance, did you bring the permit? Because was there?
I don't. I went to the building inspector,
Yeah.
the town hall, and she looked that up, and she was trying to do a little bit more information on it, get it, because I guess, I don't know, it didn't say,
Right.
they spelled Brainerd Road wrong.
Yeah, we have that.
Yeah.
I will say that is an issue with looking up past things because the name of the road seemed to have changed as far as it was spelled.
As far as I know, I've
in
been
our-
there, I've been a resident in Enfield all my
Opened up.
life, the road never changed.
Right.
It's
And
just a pavement.
so I know that you had a building permit to build something because I have a copy of it and there's a drawing that shows it, but it doesn't give the details. I did check with the assessor's office that they're taxing you for this in-law apartment, and I did check today where, and I don't know who the person, but it was a woman who signed that when they did the inspection, she signed off on the assessment paperwork back in the 80s that it was an in-law apartment. So I'm just trying to understand. Because I couldn't go on the property and look inside, what do I have? If I walked in the front door, am I going to see a house?
You walk in the front door, it's like a family room, which You walk in the front door, it's a hallway, you go in the living room, dining room,
Just like a
kitchen.
regular house, and then you-
Regular house, and then the way the in-law apartment was built, there was a hallway separating the garage and the in-law apartment, and they had a set of stairs going to the basement and a set of a door going into their kitchen and a slider going out to the back deck. It's been like that since 1970.
Mrs. Whitten, it's been described as a duplex and then a house with an in-law apartment. The gentleman here has said he's never converted it to a duplex.
Never.
So it's not a two-family house, okay?
It's still got one meter on it, one water meter on it, one electric meter on it. It's always had two furnaces, boilers in it, two oil tanks.
Have you had just one tenant, or did you have two tenants? One living in the in-law apartment and one living in the house itself? Is that what you did before?
Yes.
Okay. And you
Now I'm living there.
okay, how'd you divvy up the,
Huh?
how'd you divvy up the electrical permit? mean,
I don't. I pay it myself.
Okay, okay. Just wonder how you.
All I
did it.
do, pay the water and the electric myself.
Just curiosity. And the issue, well, there's several issues. One is, if you haven't lived there, and you only moved in there 2 months ago, and you wanted you're running in the oil business out of there, okay? That creates a problem
All right.
legally for us.
Can I explain something?
Sure, go ahead.
I own 4 oil trucks. They never were parked there. They're parked in East Hartford inside of a garage. They've been there since 1906. Not 1906. 2006. Oh,
You look much
Jesus,
younger than that.
1906. They've been there. I pay rent. They've never been there overnight. I'm in there. I have my sister in there. She answers the phone, pays bills, and that's it. There's no walk-in activity. 99% of my stuff is credit cards. The bills come and she pays the bills. That's it. It's just like, basically like an in-law apartment. People have contracting business. I had a contracting business and an oil business there since 1980. So that's 43 years. And now all of this is an issue. I'm at the point in my life now, I'm ready to throw in the towel, you know?
Let's get this straightened out first, okay? Go ahead, Commissioner Turner.
But you didn't file with the town that I mean, there's no documents that show you have an oil business.
Yes, it is. I get a tax bill from them for office equipment. So they must know.
No, I did check that. You get your personal property tax. I checked that too, because I'm a nosy kind of gal. But we don't have you registered as a business.
I'm registered in the state of Connecticut. I didn't know how I had it registered with the town as a business. All my trucks are registered Ferguson Oil. I pay taxes on them through the town of Enfield, not in East Hartford, but the town of Enfield.
All of your trucks, I thought they were based in East Hartford.
They're based in East Hartford, but I get the tax bill for Enfield because the registration comes to Enfield.
Okay.
You have to have some kind of address. I don't have a mailing address down there.
No, I understand.
I just got a bare bone garage with heat in it.
Okay, thank you. I'm confused.
You confused?
I can try to clarify some of that.
Why don't you give it a try, Laura?
Okay, so first of all, tax bills, when they go out and do the investigation of properties for taxation, they tax what they see. If it's a two-family or a four-family house, they just say it's a four-family house, and that's what you're going to get taxed on. If it's an in-law apartment, they just say that. That does not mean that they were ever approved by planning and zoning.
I beg the difference. My father was on the planning and zoning for
Excuse me, may I
17
finish?
years, and I doubt if he'd do anything
Sir,
illegal.
Excuse me.
Sir.
Please let her finish. You'll
The
get your
in-law
chance.
apartment regulations have been in existence way before 1970. The only way you can get an in-law apartment approved in this town is by a special use permit. And unless there is one on file, it is not a legal in-law apartment. That is not to say that you cannot come in and apply for that, but it is not a legal in-law apartment if you do not have that special use permit. As far as the home occupation, if in fact you are living there now, and you could prove that, you may have a home occupation and have one employee and, just pay bills and answer phones, but you may not have the oil trucks come to the site over and over again. That would not be permitted. So, I mean, you do have some ways out of this, but for now, we were not told that you had moved there. So, and the
And what do I
in-law
gotta-
apartment is not currently legal.
And what do I got to do to show that I'm legally living there? Everything's there, everything totally's moved there, changed my address and everything.
Okay, then show us that, maybe we could talk more about that, but, mail delivered to your house for you would be helpful. And, as far as, you need to register for the home occupation, but again, you will not be allowed to have any oil trucks come and go.
If they do come, they stop on the street. It's just the same as an oil
No.
delivery to a house.
Nobody gets an oil truck delivery every day.
I understand that.
So that's the issue, and this is in the aquifer protection zone.
Okay.
So we are very concerned about any leaking,
Okay,
okay?
I can deal with that. So on the in-law apartment, now what do I got to do with that?
Well, you'll have to read through the regulations and see whether or not you comply with the minimum regulations and apply for a special use permit through the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Would it be correct that what he needs to do is come into your department?
Wouldn't I be grandfathered under that? It's 53 years? No?
There is no grandfather for use,
No.
sorry.
What you need to do, and that's what you're asking, what do I have to do to get this thing straightened out? I think you need to make an appointment with these folks, go through what they want you to do, give them the proof of where you're living and stuff like that, and just do the paperwork that you have to do, and apply for that permit. You have to apply for it. But we can't do that here. We're
Okay.
basically here to decide one issue, whether it's
Hold up the cease and
Well-
desist.
we have a cease and desist, meaning stop doing it. That's what it means. And so that's before us right now. And so that's what we have to vote on. And we only can go by what we have and what we've heard from you.
Okay.
So,
So from a staffing point, I would suggest that, well, you could make your decision. However, the only thing that he could do moving forward to keep these coming in, to keep these uses, are to apply for the home occupation and apply for the special use permit.
And where do I do that? In the
You
building
can do that
department?
through my department, planning department, but it's outside of this.
after this meeting and give you
Or
where you have
this
to
week,
go.
come into the office.
Okay?
And I can do that tomorrow?
You could try, I'll be in interviews all day, so, but I will not be available tomorrow, but maybe Wednesday.
Okay. Because I'm going on vacation for 3 weeks.
Okay?
All right. I want to get this done as soon as possible.
You could stop in if somebody's available, they will try to help you.
Okay.
It's the best I could do.
I have a quick question. Lori, so just so it's clear, because we kind of like bounce around a lot of things. One, proof of residence, which you will work with him on.
Yep.
And then number two, figuring out this in-law thing and whatever constitutes an in-law apartment.
Right.
And then the third is in relation to the business, and that is simply registering with the business and finding out what the limitations are of that. So proof of residence, the in-law apartment thing, and then just the business registered with the town. Is that correct?
Well,
Correct.
the aquifer thing.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing, is we'll have to work
Right.
on the aquifer and exactly what his business entails, so.
Any other commissioners have any comments?
Through the chairman, Lori, if we uphold the cease and desist, how much time does he have before he has to, or might face consequences?
As soon as you uphold it, the fines start at $150 a day per violation.
But haven't we in the past done our business and they went in the very next day to show that they were doing whatever? But I would,
That
that's up to
maybe,
them.
that's up to the applicant.
Right,
Right.
right.
Any other comments from the commissioners?
Mr. Chairman, just a question of process, but if we table it, is that an option to then allow the staff to be freed up and Mr. Ferguson to get together with them when our staff's available?
I would defer to Mrs. Whitten.
That would be one scenario that would be possible.
We could table the hearing.
But now we're talking about September again.
I'll definitely have it done, all the stuff in before September. So basically, proof of permit you want credit card bills, power bill.
Yep, proof of
My
residence.
trucks are all registered. My personal vehicles are registered here. I don't. Anything else?
Well, that just allows you to apply for the home occupation
Correct.
and the in-law apartment.
And then I
That-
can
So
fill out
we-
the paperwork
that-
for the home office.
Well, that will require us to review what you submit and see how you comply,
Okay.
okay?
Is there a possibility of holding off if he's going through this process?
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Is there a possibility of holding off the charges until he gets ours?
The only way that could happen at this time is to have the applicant request a continuance.
So is that what the applicant is asking?
I guess if that's what I need, it'd probably be the best for everybody at this time.
So it'd be a continuance. What happens during that time? Things stay the same, right?
So during that time, can I get all the information and get together with her and
Right, because,
fill out all the paperwork and?
just so you understand, because the cease and desist is telling you to stop. Okay, so if we vote, it's however we vote. But if you get everything all taken care of, just like the last one you heard of, like we called it ducks in a row,
Yeah.
this could all be done.
Oh, no, I can get it done.
But you have to work with the office staff and check all those boxes, or it's gonna come back in front of us with the current cease and desist.
I will.
Is that correct?
Correct?
So the applicant just asked for a continuance
For how long? 30
Only-
days, 6 days, or till
till our
the,
September meeting, because
to
we're not
September
meeting.
25th?
So if I have all that stuff done before that, do I have to come back?
Does he have to come back in front of us?
We could talk about the procedures that you would have to follow, depending on what you do.
Okay. Good enough, fair.
Do we have to, so we don't vote or anything, we just accept it?
We have to vote
Are
on the
you
continuance.
requesting a continuance?
I'm requesting a continuance.
We have to vote on that.
I make a motion that we accept the applicant's request for a continuance till September 25th meeting.
A second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Show of hands. Got it.
Thank you.
Make
Have a
sure you
nice
see
evening.
her, get all squared away.
I know where she is.
Two down.
You got something for me to sign?
Okay, moving on with item C.
Okey-dokey. ZBA 2023-0712, 95 High Street, Unit 7. Application seeking relief from Section 8.122, use table for Thompsonville Districts. Gray Athletic Association applicant, Molinas Plaza LLC, owner map 25, lot TD 5 zone.
You gentlemen could please give us your name and your address, please? for the
Yes,
record.
good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Carl Landolina representing the applicant, Gray's Athletic Association. And this is Russell Day.
That's right, I'm the president of the Grays.
Very good. Welcome. I'd just like to ask Mrs. Whitten if she'd like to give us some background here, bring us up to speed.
Oh,
It's going to be very brief. I think
Carl
only
can handle it.
Fine.
Thank you.
Attorney
So,
Lindenley,
just for the record, I did sign an affidavit regarding the posting of a sign. There's actually 2 signs up on the property because it's on a corner of Molina's, and I'm sure some of you have driven by. I actually put them in myself, so I know they're there. I charge extra for that, but they were fine with it. And also, I've given notice to the abutters. I will tell you, I sent out 10 notices to 10 different abutters. I got 8 green cards back, but I can assure you that I did send notice to all 10 abutters, and that list was given me by staff. So I think the 2 that weren't local, the ones that haven't come back. So, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, this is a very uncomplicated application, factually. So I'm sure you're all familiar with the Grays Athletic Association. They've been here in the Thompsonville area. I didn't say Enfield, Thompsonville, for 90 some odd years.
It's about to be our 100th.
100th birthday coming up. And they operate a private club. It's members only. And they do have an alcohol permit. They sell alcohol to their members. And the proceeds from their the sale of alcohol and the other things that might take place there, and activities and fundraisers and what have you, that money goes to help local sports, youth programs, and other civic programs in the town of Enfield. I don't know. Do you know how much money you've provided over the last 100 years, Russell? Or
The short answer is no. I don't know if this thing works.
it's probably not there.
It's working. It's working.
We give to Loaves and Fishes of the Warming Center, and Toys for Tots, the police and fire. As a matter of fact, I just wanted to tell you that one of the last things we did as a board was pass a scholarship of $2,500 to be given annually to an Enfield senior who was going into the trades. And we thought that was very important because obviously nothing against college-bound valedictorians, but they have lots of scholarship opportunities, and people going into the trades don't. And that is very representative of the membership of our organization, so we wanted to step up and do that. Of course, those plans went up in smoke, literally. And we are hoping that by getting a place where we can bring money in again, figure out a permanent solution for ourselves, we can also return to that legacy of charitable giving and community involvement that involves money. And the only way we're going to do that is if we have some income coming in, and this is really our only option right now. One more thing I would just say is we do have, as of 2024, it will be our centennial year, and we very much want to be able to get together and celebrate that together in as close to a home as we're going to get for the moment. So we appreciate very much your listening to our plea, and we certainly hope for a positive outcome. We think it's not only good for us, but good for Enfield. Thank you.
Okay. Any commissioners have any questions for the appellants?
I'm not original from Enfield, and I'm not 100. So I'm just curious about the Grays Club. How many members do you have? Who can play there? I mean, can anybody walk up to the door and say, let me in?
No, you'd have to be signed in by a member, but I have to tell you there's a very generous policy of signing people in. When people come, generally there's somebody in there who's going to let them in. But we
How many members do you have?
We have 150 members currently. As a matter of fact, they're a very loyal bunch. After the fire, we had an election. We had 85 members show up for that election, which is a pretty high percentage for a club like ours. And we started in 1924, originally made up of Bigelow's employees, Bigelow workers, who wanted to form athletic teams and play
in a league, hence the name Grays. They called themselves originally the Blacks, and then they became the Grays a couple years later. That name stuck. No idea why they chose the name. That's lost to history. But over the years, it's kept its connection to athletics, but also expanded it into charitable endeavors.
Why
So-
aren't,
Go ahead, I'm
why
sorry.
aren't you rebuilding?
Oh, we don't know if we're rebuilding or not. That decision has not been made. As a matter of fact, we're looking into the cost of that right now. But we need a place because to rebuild, it would take quite some time. So we would have no place to hang our hats in the interim. This is only a 2-year lease. We know it would take 2 years to rebuild, and it could take 2 years to find another optimal place, especially in Thompsonville.
That's what I'm questioning. Why can't you just go back on the site you were on?
Oh, I'll take you on a tour.
I know you're on an escarpment.
Okay. What was that? I'm sorry.
It's a fire.
I know the fire, I know the building was taken down. Usually they rebuild on that spot.
No, the building has not been taken down. No.
Okay,
There's remnants of the building still there. So I don't know if you're familiar with the old bank building, which is now owned by the Salas brothers, next to the community gardens. There's a plot of land in between, a very small one, that's owned by the town of Enfield. And if you go by what's left of the Grace building, you'll see a vertical wall that was left when the building that was on the town property. These were buildings with 0 lot lines back in the 30s and 40s. And the town left the structural wall up, if you've ever seen it. Now, the town says that we could take that down. The reality is I'm not a structural engineer, but these guys could probably tell you if that wall ever comes down, their building is coming down too. Otherwise, there would be no reason to leave that sort of common wall there. There might be like an inch of separation between the two. But notwithstanding that, right now, and maybe never, the Grays Club doesn't have the ability to reconstruct that building. The other issue is in that area, there is no parking. And what parking, I'm sure, and I'm not, I'm sure that some of the members of the Grays Club would park on the bank property and on the town property. Well, those days are over with. The bank property has been sold to Ronnie and Frank Salas. They're going to be working on that. So that parking is gone. So you basically have street parking, and with the new regulations and the proposed development that they're trying to encourage, the TOD development, transit-oriented development district down there, because of the railroad station. In Windsor Locks, we waited 25 years for that, but maybe you'll get it sooner. So, he knows more about it than I do, but I just, and I think there may be other interest in that site for other uses, and I won't go any further than that. But I don't know that they're ever going to be able to really utilize that space that was being utilized since the 1930s in the manner in which they had previously done because of the parking problem down there. There was a couple of spots across the street, 2 vacant lots. For a long time, people parked there. But again, the Salas brothers have bought that as well. And now with the development of the Lamagna Center and the old movie theater, parking is going to be at a premium down there in that section. They have been an institution in Thompsonville for next year 100 years. They want to stay in Thompsonville. I suppose they could go into Hazardville or whatever, but that's not. I mean, this thing came out of the Bigelow Commons. You had, like Russell said, the workers there would play sports, and then they wanted a place to hang out together afterwards. And so, this became their hangout, and then became the Grays Club, and then turned into what it was. Unfortunately, they have a non-conforming use in that
Sorry.
Class 5. They have a Class 5 club permit. They're still holding on to it. They've been paying it for the license. They can't use it now, but they can't give it up because if they give it up, it might be lost into the future. So they're paying for a license from the state of Connecticut that they presently have nowhere to hang. So the idea is that they would essentially what we're asking for is to allow them to move their non-conforming use to one property to another. Although, I will say it's a bit unusual to do that, but under the circumstances and what the reality is, the only way they can stay in Thompsonville is for you to approve this use. Now, I don't know, I wasn't involved when the TD stuff, it was years in the making. I'm not sure why the Class 5 license, given there was already a Class 5 licensee in the TD5 section, why it disappeared, but it did. So, that's where they are. So if they want to stay in this section of town, they need a use variance.
I need the chairman through
Mrs. Whitten.
premises holding a club permit. Premises is where I'm stuck. Because we live in a land of abandonment,
Yep.
if we move forward, it's 2 years, let's just say. What could happen if they leave? Now, we've put because remember, we're a variance kind of board.
Right.
It stays with the property till God takes earth.
Right. I knew that was going to be a concern. So the only thing I can say is this. First of all, you have the right to put conditions on a variance. You don't have the right to say it's limited to this owner because they run with the land. But I guess what I'd offer up as a suggestion would be, well, first of all, this is only the opening salvo, so to speak. We have to go to planning and zoning and get their permission because it's a special permit use. So this would allow us to do that, to take that step. The other issue is there are also setback requirements in the zoning regulations, all right, that certain alcohol-related premises have to be a certain separating distance from other types of churches, schools, playgrounds, and stuff like that. I mean, that's the law since selling alcohol became a thing in the 1800s. They want to mix schools so we have to get their permission to even be there in that regard, because there's no place in Thompsonville, any of Thompsonville, where you can meet those separating distances between churches and schools and all the rest of it. So this would give us the opportunity to at least get up to bat with planning and zoning. Now, the other thing I would say, you can't condition this on us getting approval there, all right, because it's a board over which you have no control. But first of all, we're only asking for the Class 5 license, so that Class 1, 2, and 3, and 4, or the Class 5 is the club permit. In other words, if let's say they left, there couldn't be a bar in there or a restaurant with, or anything that wasn't permitted in the zone to begin with.
But there'd be nothing stopping another
Club.
That
is
and
true.
there's nothing stopping from that property being
right.
raised. All that's on that building, that whole building could
Well,
be torn down.
this is limited to Unit 7 only, so it'd be that
Right.
square footage.
Right?
So in other words, you couldn't knock down Molina's Plaza and build a huge, let's say, KFC or American Legion,
Why not?
not with a liquor license, because that would be expanding the
I'm
non-conforming.
just talking, it could just be another club.
Right, but the service of alcohol would be limited to the square footage of Unit 7,
Correct?
which is about, I don't know, how big is Unit 7?
It's pretty big. I've been in it.
Yeah, I don't know precisely.
Yeah.
It's about a third of what's there?
Yeah, it's
Are you
it's
the end that's not rented?
yeah, it's the end-to-end one.
In the end, yeah.
Yeah.
It's 7 and 8, yeah. They're about the same size.
Yeah,
Right.
It's the end.
So,
The worry is
yeah,
the abandonment issue, and we've had those problems.
understood.
And Attorney Landolina, you've come and fought both sides of the fence with us. I mean,
Because I believe in both sides of the fence. The other thing so you know that the variance does not become effective until you record it, or I record it, okay? So if you want to put a condition on it that says we can't record it until and unless we get our approval from planning
Okay.
and zoning,
Okay.
staff holds on to it, we never get it, never goes on the land records.
Planning and zoning, so, because we understand, You have to come to ZBA to see if you can get a variance, and you actually are in need of two. You need one for the Class 5 license, and the other one is for the operating a private club. And then, if you get through here, once one board, you now move on to planning and zoning, who would then do whatever they do to you.
Correct, that's correct.
To the chairman, to Ms. Witten, is that an option? Because, you know, we're not much of a conditioning type of crowd.
I think that the, putting a condition on saying that that the variance cannot be recorded until PCC has approved this application makes sense. I do agree that we don't grant conditions on variances typically. Carl, maybe
Yeah, I'm trying to pull up the statute right
I have
now.
a question.
Go ahead, yep.
Can they take a variance away? Like, is it possible to undo a variance?
I don't believe so.
I don't
Lori.
I don't think it has, but
No.
I'm not an
It's a-
attorney either, so.
It's,
The reason I say that is we actually have somebody in Thompsonville back in the day who came in for a variance for a goat. And to this day, if the person who lives in that house wants to have a goat, they can. Not that they've figured it out yet.
And you're not going to tell us the address.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
To Ms. Witten, is it possible to approve this based purely on Unit 7 as defined today by square footage location, such that if
Yeah,
someone bought the Molinas Plaza and tore down walls and called it, quote, Unit 7, it would change the,
yeah, you could
The
limit it to the
characteristics.
square footage of the tenant space as it
and then I think
is today.
to Commissioner Turner's perspective, right, we want to make sure there's some controls in place that it's just not going to be a free-for-all, right? We recognize your need, we recognize the appropriateness of this in this scenario, speaking for myself, not the other commissioners, but we want to make sure that area of Thompsonville is also properly protected so that another club can't come in, take over the whole building and do it, right? And
Right.
that's why I just want to verify that we can define it based on that unit as it stands today.
Well, Commissioner Stroni, think about it. Someone could come in and take over the whole strip mall. They could have a whole bunch of other things at the, let's say that's 20,000 square feet. You walk down a hall and the bar is at the end, and they have to stay there, you know?
But I think the private club is also coming into effect too. So it's not just the liquor permit, it's the area of the private club.
Right.
So
But
if
any
you-
private club
If you
could
restrict
come
it
along,
to
right?
that tenant space, square footage, then I think that would be valid. Saying
Do we know
the
what-
private club and the liquor permit are only valid within this square footage area.
Ms. Nesberg has a question.
So the private club wouldn't have to be approved again, though, at a later date?
Well, no, wouldn't, if we give a variance that there can be a private club and there can be a club permit, it's done.
It runs with the
Forever
land, but
hold
it
your
runs
peace.
with the land as defined.
Mr. Chairman,
want to
if I may.
We
define
have to
it.
define, we have to define that as clearly as we can in the conditions.
Correct.
The logistical, like, we think it's between 17, around 1,800 square feet. Well, you could say, the easiest thing to do is to say Unit 7. Is it 7 and 8, or just
7.
Unit 7, as it presently is constituted in terms of square feet? It's possible, depending on, yes, I suppose if it was a private club, a real private club, they couldn't, and the next guy, they couldn't like build a thing and say, this is the private club on this end, because it would be, if you tear down walls, you got a whole new permit that you need for inside.
That's right.
Depending on what the nature of the rest of the use
It's
is.
expansion.
Yeah.
But again,
But that would be expanding the nonconformity at that point,
If
which
we
they
went
can't
beyond,
do.
if we went, like, if we wanted to go to Unit 6, let's say.
Right, if you wanted to
that would-
expand.
We can't do that.
You,
Right.
yes, we'd have to come back and get your permission,
right.
and then go back there for their permission. And so,
Attorney Landolina, quick
Yes.
question. What's the organization's stat? Is the 501c4 or 7? Is it
It's not
Oh, it's a five?
not-for-profit.
Right, we are not a C3. I don't know why exactly we're not a C3. Apparently, somebody dropped the ball many years ago. But we'd like to be, but that's a bit of a process. But I believe C5.
C5? All right. I just wanted to clarify that because it's thrown around private club, and under law, there's different variations of that, and they have different functions and abilities to conduct their affairs, even like the checking in of guests and members, et cetera.
So I have a question on the private club. If we okay this one for the private club, 2 years, 3 years down the road, another private club comes in, do they have to get a special permit, or is this any private club just goes in there?
To move in this location?
Yes.
They would not need to come in for a new permit if they go into the exact same square footage and location.
Right.
But if any other private club wants to come in anywhere else in Thompsonville, it's not permitted. What they're trying to do is maintain their grandfathered status.
I think we're trying to craft it so we can.
Yeah, yeah.
Nobody's denying that this is a valuable asset in town. It's
Right.
got a historical value and municipal value. It's super. You know, I'm old enough to know a lot of people have gone who were members of your club when it first started.
So that's why I'm suggesting the one thing, that the geographical location, I think that's important.
I do too.
Right, to get that, nailed down. The other thing is, the way I suggested the comment about, or the condition about, first of all, conditions, I can tell you, better than I know my middle name, that you can put conditions on variances. You probably don't do it a lot, but you can. But one of the conditions you couldn't would be to say, we're not going to give you this variance is subject to you getting approval from planning and zoning. And that's not what I suggested. What I suggested was something a little subtler than that says you can't record the certificate. We're not going to give it to you to record until you get that. And what that might mean, we can discuss at the club afterwards, but so there's a subtle difference between those two.
We don't have a club to discuss it.
Okay, we're going to your house.
You're all welcome.
So those are if you could think of anything else that would, and I understand your concern.
I'm afraid of abandonment.
Yeah,
I know that's, this abandonment thing has slapped us in the face now for the last few years, and it's really harmed us.
Commissioner?
So on the abandonment, if they left in 3 years and just abandoned it, would that null and void this?
so
Actually, they
let me,
would.
we can't,
you can't require it.
You can't require that, but, so the only other suggestion I could throw out is that even though the variance would run with the land, which we don't own, we just lease, we are the applicant here. So I suppose if they decided to leave, or they got thrown out, because somebody else bought the plaza and said, I want to, do whatever after the lease is up, I suppose an argument could be made that they might have standing to take action. And I'm not promising or doing anything else, but I'm just thinking that would be an issue that perhaps.
Who would have?
The owner of even though the owner of the land, it runs with the land, but they're the applicant here.
Right.
This is being issued in their favor.
Right.
Yeah.
But it doesn't, but the words that you're here in front of us are premises holding a club permit, premises.
Right. No.
Holding a club permit.
Yeah.
And the other is operating a private club. It doesn't, we could remove their name completely. It could be Landalina's whatever.
Right.
That's the worry.
I understand, but it's possible that they could abandon the use on their way out. I can't guarantee that they would.
And we
if they
can't
would.
make them.
You can't make them.
And we
I'm just
can't-
saying,
we can-
That's the best I can do.
Lori, sorry.
Go ahead.
Mr. Landalina, as private clubs go, is there like some huge upward trend of opening up private clubs and they're moving up and we're getting a ton of them? Is it a big money enterprise?
Yeah, I think exactly the opposite.
Yeah. I mean, everywhere I used to hang out at these private clubs when I was a youngster, American Legion, right? That's where we all kind of cut our teeth on ordering beer. They're all churches now, right?
I
You
just
go to
sold
Windsor
one.
Locks,
Yep.
we had 5 of these places in Windsor Locks. I think there's one left. You must have had dozens of them here, right? Where are they?
And
Can't,
Not to mention, there's probably 500 empty offices out there that somehow you could probably use.
Are,
Yeah.
and you,
It's-
Mr. Landlady, and you work in real estate.
Yeah.
And are commercial landowners banging down the doors to get private clubs to come
No,
in?
I'll
at their
give you an
space?
example. So the KSC in Windsor Locks, which I was there every Saturday night because they had dances, right, from the time I was 15. That's a Muslim church now, or whatever they would call it. And I represent the folks who bought it. These clubs can't afford, it's very difficult for them to afford, you know, to stay alive. And one of the reasons is because kids don't want to get married at the KSC anymore, right? They want to go to, right? Or in the backyard. Everyone wants to go to the biggest, so renting those places out is not what it used to be.
And just one final question. Did you have to compete with other private clubs to win getting this space?
Oh, not remotely.
No, there was nobody, yeah, I get your point. Yeah, there was nobody knocking down Mr. or Mrs. Molina's door.
And there are other vacancies there.
Yeah, we will. I just want, anybody else here have a comment? Any commissioners? Okay, I'm going to ask if we do you have any questions or any comments at this point? Now I'm going to open it to public.
Nothing at this time, thanks.
I'm going to open this to public comment at this time. If anybody would like to speak before the commission, please come forward and give your name and address and speak to this issue, either pro or con. Raise your hand, please, if you're interested in coming and speaking.
I'd like to make one comment.
You'd have to come up here, please. We're being recorded. We have to be able to get your voice. You're on TV.
My name is Steve Wers.
Just sit down right with the mic, if you would, please.
My name is Steve Wers. I'm a resident of Enfield. What I would like to bring to the board's attention is that all of the people that are here are all members of the Grace Club, and this is the support that we had for this. And that's all I had to say.
Thank you. We assume that. Is there anybody else who would like to speak, either pro or con? Come on up, sir. Just give your name and address, please.
Hello, I'm I have to push a button?
If it's red, you don't have to.
Okay. John Wiggett, 59 New King Street, right here in Enfield. I've been a member for a long time. I'm also the manager of the Athletic Association. For Mary Ann Turner, Commissioner, or I don't know the proper term, I'm sorry.
Go with it.
I always, because I was in the Air Force for a long time, I would call them Colonel or General or so.
Both work.
Yeah. All right. Then General. We've been there since 1924. We're not going to move. We get stuck. The other thing is, we've already had offers from the revitalization people to take that property. They offered us $1. So, like I said, there's all kinds of stuff going on for the train station that they want to do down there. We're kind of afraid that they're just going to, at one point, say, we're taking it. Now, with, what is it?
Eminent domain.
Eminent domain. Thank you, General. But no, we just help everybody we can. If somebody comes in, like my daughters have and other people have, with a form that says we would like some money for the breast cancer walk or for Alzheimer's or something, we always donate. We donate to everything we can. You know, we don't have a lot of money because we donate so much because we want to stay in the community and help the community. And we would just like you to help us out. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to speak? Come on up, sir.
I'm moving slow. My name is Paul Balomo, and I live on Brainerd Road, very near the Ferguson
Welcome.
operation. That was interesting.
No comment.
I will say, I never saw a problem with them there. But our end game, and everybody has a different opinion, but I think our end game is to rebuild the Grace Club right where it is. We'll do what we have to do to conform, but we got to get through this first, I guess. I think that we should actually just be applying for the permits or whatever it's going to take to clear off the top floor and get going with that. But we're trying to get just a place to operate in the meantime. That's all this is. 2 years, we'll be gone from there. If our club isn't rebuilt there, we may have no club left. That's how it ends. And we'd like to get to the 100th year. That's it for me. Thank you.
A worthy goal. Anybody else who would like to speak? Second time. Anybody like to speak either for or against? For a third and final time, is there anybody else in the audience that would like to speak for or against this particular variance? And I close audience participation. I'm going to close that at this time.
I'd have them come back. Let's not close the public hearing yet. We
No,
get in
I'm
trouble
not
with
ready
that.
to.
Yeah.
I'd ask the applicants to, the appellants to come up, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, for the record, Carl Andolina. I really don't have anything to add. I think, as I said, it was factually a fairly simple application. Obviously, there are concerns, and I understand them wholeheartedly. I suppose there are members who would like to see the place return to its former glory on Main Street. I don't know if the reality is that that's going to happen. I didn't want to be so specific as the last speaker, but yes, the town has expressed some interest. When the town comes and offers you $1 for something, so I don't know if it's going to be there. But in any event, in order to open in a reasonable amount of time to get back going and to, they need this variance so they can go to planning and zoning and open in a new location. So, you have anything left, or? No, thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. We
Okay.
appreciate
Mr.
it.
Landolina, before
Yes.
you go, you had offered us some copy.
You want me to draft this right now? Yeah,
I'd like
okay.
you to at
Yeah.
least help me, because
Sure.
I can't guarantee you we're going to do it right, and I don't know where it's going to end up. So why don't
Okay.
we take a couple minutes, if the commissioners will indulge?
Absolutely.
What I wrote down is this variance can't be recorded, the certificate, without the approval of the P and Z. And it needs to be within Unit 7, approximately 1,700 feet.
Not without, I would say until,
Until,
yeah, has approved. Right,
Until,
right.
And that
is
would
what
be the site
approvals-
plan.
It's
Lori,
a special permit. we're gonna
Special
need.
permit.
Yeah.
excuse me. Lori, they've, with the P and Z approves the special permit. I thought there were multiple things that P and Z had to do for you.
It's a special permit,
Just the special permit
For the
correct.
club.
for the club?
For the club and for the liquor license.
Both.
Both need
You
a
have to
special
account for
permit.
both. For the club and the liquor license.
And the setbacks,
I'm sorry?
separation
Oh,
distances.
yeah, well, that,
So that's all part of the
that's all
special use
part of that
permit
process.
application.
Right.
Okay, we're just
So-
trying to be as specific as
Yeah,
we can.
exactly, understood.
when you say setbacks, Lori,
Separation distances is more accurate.
From churches and schools, whatever's
schools.
required in the regulation.
but the other unit at the end has a liquor license in it. How does that affect this?
We'll figure that out when the application,
It may
Comes out.
preclude us, I don't think it does right now. But
There's waiverability written within the regulations for separation distances in Thompsonville.
yeah, the separating distance for most things is 1,000 feet, but there's language in a footnote that says they can waive the 1,000-foot separation distance between a liquor use and another type of use. The commission has the right.
Right.
They can do that themselves, the Planning and Zoning Commission. We're not asking for a variance for those things, because Planning and Zoning has reserved the right to do that.
So what I had was the variance may not be recorded, or the variance for the Class 5 liquor permit and private club use may not be recorded until the PZC special use permit is granted.
That fit?
Okay, I need you to read it slower so I can write it down and add all the other stuff that I want to add to it. The variance for the Class 5 liquor permit
For the Class 5 and private club may not be recorded until such time as the PZC special use permit is granted.
as recorded until such use, tell me the ending.
Until the PZC special use permit is granted.
I think we also wanted to get in there that it would not exceed Unit 7, and it would not exceed approximately 1,700 square feet, Lori.
That hadn't
Yeah,
gotten
that'd
there
be like
yet.
number 2, that this variance is limited
To Unit 7
to
at
units
XYZ address.
at the address as it presently
It's
exists,
constituted.
is constituted.
Which could be verified by their current lease or their proposed lease.
Right.
It should have the
What does
exact square footage.
constituted mean? What are you saying to
In other
me?
words, if Unit 7 is 1,500 square feet,
Right.
that unit
Currently
constitutes
constitutes.
1,500 square feet,
Okay,
and that's what it's limited to. So it couldn't expand beyond the footprint. Or you could say limited to the footprint of Unit 7
That's
as
clear.
presently constituted.
That works.
well, I've got it all backwards, but we're getting there. I will tell you, the issue with abandonment bugs the daylights. It really concerns me, because I will tell you, from my own guesstimates, that I like that the Gray Athletic Club is who they are. And I'd like to know
Yep.
that they're going to be around for 200 more years, and I'll be long gone.
Well, if they stay at this location for as long as they were at the last one, then it'll be up to Richard's grandchildren to deal.
You got it?
I'm assuming you've looked at other spots.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, they had another spot, a standalone building. I won't tell you where it is, it's not important. Fairly close to where they are now, and they had a very deal put together, and at the last minute it fell apart. So, yeah, and that's just one example. They've been looking since the fire, essentially.
And they
This one
haven't-
has the best parking. This is the best parking, and it's, you know.
You have any other questions? Do you have any other questions?
Lori, you got anything you're going to help make before, because the public hearing is still open. We've learned our lesson.
Yep.
I can't think of anything else to
You
add.
want to read what you've got, and then we can,
The variance for the Class 5 liquor permit is limited to Unit 7 of the XYZ address as previously constituted footprint, and then it jumps, and private club may not be recorded until the PZC special use permit is granted.
yeah, just call them 1 and 2. That way they're not, it's one long,
But I would
Go ahead.
I would use the Class 5 liquor permit and private club for both of them.
When I originally started, the variance for the Class 5 liquor permit and private club. That's what I have started.
May
May
not
not be recorded until till such time the PZC special use permit is granted and is limited to Unit 7 of XYZ address as constituted footprint. Will that work?
In its current or present constituted footprint.
I think it's saying that.
Is it?
Read this part again.
Is limited to Unit 7 of XYZ address as presently constituted
Okay.
footprint. Seems like a word's missing.
Nah, you got it good.
Okay, I would make that just as he said, make it line 2. This is, and put a period at the end of that,
And
and
then
make this the
pull
second
this
sentence.
down here. And
You got all that?
What address? 95. We're going to practice this before
95
we...
High Street, right? It's
95 High Street, correct.
We're
Okay.
going
Unit
to pick
seven.
up some of this motion in here, too, so we got it clean.
Well, we're moving to approve the
Right.
variance, and then the rest of this would go in there.
I think we want to use some of this, too.
Yeah, you'd move to approve the variance for 95 High Street,
Right, I'm going to...
and with the following conditions, number 1, number 2, and
Clean.
Our secretary's probably got it a lot better than I do.
No? No, listen to the tape.
Well, first we need to close the public hearing.
I know. I just wanted to get this done. Are you comfortable with that now? As well as you can be?
as well
she's still on the fence, Mr. Chairman. She doesn't- but-
I understand she's on the
Yeah,
fence for two
That's
different.
different than crafting the motion, though. I guess we'll find out where we land in about 3
Well,
minutes.
she's still happy about being called general, so you
Yeah,
can understand
sure.
this, yeah.
Since I
Okay,
was a private in the Army for 6 years,
okay. At this point, I'm going to accept the motion to close the hearing.
So moved.
Second.
A second? Any discussion? Pardon?
I understand and echo Commissioner Turner's concern about the abandonment. And since public commentary is closed, I want to say this just from my own perspective. I would hope that, given what we're trying to accomplish here today for Grays Athletic, that should they leave that location and be willing to sign an abandonment letter just in recognition of what we're trying to do, that would be very much appreciated, so that Thompsonville, that particular spot, doesn't have the forever concerns that come with this type of approval. And so, again, it's not a condition of however I'm going to vote tonight, but I would just hope that they would highly consider that should they decide to move to a different or return to their original location. That's all. But I echo Commissioner Turner's concerns on that. And you can't speak to this. I know that.
No, we can't. But I think one of the things we're all trying to do is the same thing.
Yes.
Okay, all of us value what you guys have been doing for 100 years, not all of you, but for 100 years. And I think it's been valuable to the community. And it'd be wasteful for us to turn this down. But we have to protect the town of Enfield, too. And I think you guys understand where we're trying to go. And I think we're all in the same seat here trying to do that. I appreciate Attorney Landolina helping us craft this, because it's a community project here to save this group. And I think that's what we're trying to do. I appreciate your help very, very much. So at that point...
Hang on.
You got another question?
Since everybody's having a chat, I want to make sure that it's on the record, because the public is watching us. And we've had people come in front of us regarding abandonment, and it's been a real issue. And I'm sure that none of you sit at home and watch zoning board of appeals meetings regularly.
I hope not.
But I'm hoping that the public will understand what may happen this evening, and that we are putting our trust in you, that if something changes, that Attorney Landolina stays your attorney and he decides, okay, with their leaving, there's this short little letter that just says, we're leaving and we abandoned the use, that you'll hear what we're asking you. We can't condition you. We're asking for you in good faith to support us, as who knows what's going to happen with us to you. okay? So please hear what I'm asking you, because it's a problem, and Thompsonville can't afford to have abandonment issues. Yes, you're looking at me?
No, no,
Oh, okay.
just listening.
So I just,
All right.
thank you, Commissioner Stroni, but I want to make sure that the public understands that we're not willy-nilly on our abandonment problem.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Well, I think, again, this club is a significant part of the Thompsonville history, and recognizing that, that's why we're trying to find the right solution to support them.
And what P&Z does, P&Z does.
Right, right.
This is the first step. You got a couple of steps to go. Is there any other comments? Okay, then,
I'm going to take a shot at this.
okay, no,
I make a motion to grant,
we have to have a vote to close the hearing? at this
You did
point?
close the hearing.
did already.
Okay, well, okay, just, go ahead.
We're ready for the motion. You ready? Ready? Okay. Motion to grant a variance for ZBA 2023-0712. The variance for permitting a Class 5 liquor permit and private club to be located at 95 High Street, Unit 7, for the Grays Athletic Association, Inc. applicant. The variance for the, just go with me, for the Class 5 liquor permit, now these are the conditions, with the following conditions. The variance for the Class 5 liquor permit and private club may not be recorded until such time that the Planning and Zoning Commission special use permit is granted. And number 2 is limited to 95 High Street, Unit 7, 95 High Street, as presently constituted footprint. Okay, and I don't know if you need the ending, and Molina's Plaza LLC owner, map 25, lot 6, TD5 zone with the, and we did the rest of it.
Seconded. Well done.
Okay. Roll call?
Tim Neville,
Yes.
Mary Ann Turner, yes. Kelly Davis.
Yes.
Charlie Masterberti.
Yes.
Rich Stroni.
Yes.
Gentlemen, I can't wait to come by.
Wait, we need an invite, don't we?
Right down the road. We know. Thank you very much. Thank you. That's the first turtle. Thank you, John.
You're welcome. We'll come by and see you. Jack Daniel's honey. Keep the bottle, Jack Daniels. Okay.
Thank you, guys. You worked so hard over years. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
We won't abandon you.
Just understand what we were talking about.
Good luck.
They won't let you quit?
Thank you very much.
They won't let you quit?
Appreciate it.
Let's be there forever even more. Let's be there forever even more.
Gotta get some youngins in there to take over, right?
There is none anymore.
Yeah, so that sounds like what I learned at South Windsor action plans. So
Yeah,
this is
it's almost
Yep.
just taking this and saying, the
Yep.
hearing was closed,
Yep.
motion made by, seconded by, condition was.
Yeah, so when I worked with Dennis South Windsor, the secretary, she would do the action plans, and then the following day, she'd give me her notes, and then I would do type of the actual notes. And I had like the whole.
Yeah, so we did, so we, notice of action.
Yeah.
And then we need to do the legal notice of action, so they've actually taken it as a continuance. This was,
Yes, so then you have to go back and then,
so that has to go into legal items, legal notice of action.
yeah.
Within 48 hours, we have to get it to the town clerk, for the notice of action.
And then she posts that on her website.
We do that. Nobody posts anything on the website. It shows it all in the air.
Okay, number 9, approval of the minutes. Oh, we have to sign this off first.
Yes, and I have to actually, we have it written. I'll rewrite it here.
Fine, we'll do it before we leave.
Yeah, why don't you just, yeah, I'll fill it out. because then you don't have to stick around, just in the floor line.
Where are we?
We're moving on to minutes.
Hang on, we're just trying to get this thing signed off beforehand.
I'm gonna fill it out properly after.
Yeah. Kelly?
Now we're back to our regular crowd.
Something we said?
Look at you all signing a blank check. I love this, that they all trust me. so much.
conditions on
Here you go.
We'll fix it as soon.
Okay, let's move on. Number 9, approval of minutes. I have a motion to approve.
Motion.
We're going
I'm gonna,
We-
Well, you need to do that before the meeting ends.
we intend to.
well, I
Yep.
was just gonna,
We just have to-
oh, so I need to, okay, wait.
Okay.
Wait.
Wait till after the meeting.
I was just gonna fill out what I wrote on there.
That's okay.
Okay, so you need the reasons for approval. So first off, who, I made the motion.
I seconded.
Yep.
Okay, so at least let's not go to jail. Okay, so the reason for approval was, go ahead, anybody, throw it out there.
Well, there's the conditions for a variance, so it has a unique situation due to the fire, that they would have had these things if they had stayed in the same property. So they're basically transferring the non-conforming uses to this other building.
Continuation of the,
Unique situation due to the fire of a 100-year-old private club
Yep.
go ahead, to continue.
continue their operation in a
In support of the community.
the community and until such time they are able to figure out their next steps. Because in this scenario, their other liquor license can't be moved over.
Hang on a minute.
And no, that's more of a question for Lori.
Continue
No.
their operation in support of the community. I now need the ending.
And their historical significance to the Thompsonville community. Bigger words I should use.
Let me see if I can spell them. But we put in the reason for the reason, but she captured the motion. We don't need to add that. Do you want me to add anything in there about the motion of PZC and the reason of approval?
I think I got it.
Right, I just want to know if you need it here.
On the form.
Do you need anything here? Or you're good enough that this is enough to carry you?
We'll figure it out.
Okay.
It's on the tape, and you've got it written down. We can give it to you afterwards.
Okay, so it says the approval of a unique situation due to the fire of a 100-year-old private club to continue their operations in support of the community and their historical significance to the Thompsonville community.
Can we also put down the reasons for the conditions? Just in a
For-
very general thing.
With the following. I'm writing all over, so love it.
With the following conditions.
2 conditions.
To limit the nonconformity.
1, to limit. To PZC's special
Permit.
use permit. If is granted, I can't say is.
Is granted. Yep.
And
2.
2,
Why is that? That's
to
ringing a
the
bell. I know that
existing
name to the junior, yeah. Well,
unit.
the face of it.
7.
7
as-
at 95
High Street.
Yes, there we go, yep, no, he became a deacon,
No
yeah.
more
Yeah.
And 1,700 square
You know,
feet.
you friends with him, or?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah? Yeah, no, he's a good
Square
guy.
feet.
He's doing a great job.
Okay.
Does that seem reasonable?
Seems reasonable to
You
me.
guys are good? You
Yeah,
want me to read it
You
to
guys comfortable with that?
No, I heard.
A unique situation due to,
Hold it.
a unique situation due to the fire of a 100-year-old private club to continue their operation in support of the community and their historical significance to the Thompsonville community with the following two conditions: to limit the nonconformity to PZC special use permit is granted until, can I say until? And number two, to the existing unit 795 Heights Street, Enfield, no more than 1,700 square feet.
That do it, Lori?
She's happy. She's
Well,
happy, we're
she's
happy,
happy.
the world's happy. Okay,
Okay.
if you can read my writing.
Okay, we move on, guys. Approval of minutes, June 26, 2023.
So moved.
Okay. All those in favor?
Second.
Any correspondence or staff reports? No? Yes? Number 10?
We've been busy,
Okay, good.
very busy.
Okay. Is there any other business? Move to adjourn?
So moved.
All
Second.
those in favor? Third. We is done. Did a good job, Mary.